Welcome to Season 11 of Limited Supply, a place for hot takes on what it's really like building and scaling consumer brands. I'm your host, Nick Sharma. Let's get into today's episode. As a brand, you know that you're spending your hard-earned dollars driving traffic to your site. The problem is 98% of that traffic is anonymous. You don't know who they are, and once they leave, it's hard to find them again. There's a new tool that helps you identify these visitors and get in front of them. It's called Instant. Instant gives you another chance to convert these shoppers into buyers using their retention marketing platform. You can use their platform to send up to 10 times more site abandonment emails, which you know generate meaningful revenue and build audiences to retarget on Meta. Double your email revenue and increase your ROAS with Instant. Want to see it in action? Don't miss your chance. Sign up by April 1st to get your first month free. Just go to instant.one/limited to claim it. That's instant.one/limited. Welcome back to Limited Supply. This is another episode. I'm your host, Nick Sharma, and today we've got quite a fun episode. So starting off, we're going to talk about a DPA report that I did with Marpipe. Marpipe is a SaaS company that focuses on helping you have better catalog ads out in your feeds, whether it's on Facebook or TikTok or Snapchat, wherever it is. We looked at about $2 billion of catalog revenue and derived a bunch of insights from that. So we're going to go through that report. Today, I happen to have one of our clients in the office, and they're launching their second brand. There's 4 founders. And so I kind of looked at what are 10 things that I see all of our second-time founder clients do differently than our first-time founder clients. And I wanted to break that down because I think it's just interesting. They always have a much faster launch timing. They always have a much more aggressive route to, that $10 million mark. And I was just thinking, how come they do it so differently than first-time founders, and what are those differences? And then the third thing was, you've heard House. House has sponsored the podcast before. We've talked about House before. We've talked about incrementality testing. And we looked at a House test we did with one of our clients. Everybody's always trying to think, how do you get more scale out of Meta, or how do you get more scale out of TikTok? And how do you do it in a way where you're not just running purchase objective campaigns? So we ran a couple of other things between more upper funnel objectives with this client, tested it with House, and found some really good results. So I'm excited to share those with you, and hopefully some of those test results can carry over into some of the stuff you're running and maybe save you some money or make you some money. Before we get into the episode, though, I just want to ask you, do you subscribe to this podcast? Because if you don't, please hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't left a review, please do me a favor, leave a review. The reviews help a ton. So even if it takes you 10 seconds to leave a review, I'd really appreciate it. It won't take you more than 12 seconds though. All right, without further ado, let's get into today's episode. And as always, if you've got questions, comments, concerns, requests, song requests, whatever it is, shoot me an email. I'm just the letter N at sharma.com, or shoot me a DM on X. All right, let's get into the episode. All right, so for today's podcast, I want to start with the Marpipe report. So this is a report that we did, Sharma Brands and Marpipe. And there was a lot of interesting findings and some good takeaways in terms of why I think you should probably be running enriched catalogs if you're not already doing it. So if you don't know why I like catalog ads, well, they kind of act as like this carpool lane on a highway. So on a highway, you've got, take a Southern California highway. You've got 8 lanes. 6 of them are regular highway. Everybody's stuck in traffic. And then 2 of them are the carpool lane. You only get in the carpool lane if you're running with, if you pay for it, or if you've got 3 or more people. Now with catalog ads, you've got in ads in general, you've got the different auctions, right? So there's the auction where you're basically competing for a customer in their main feed. And then there's the catalog ad auctions, which are done separately. And because of that, I consider catalog ads to kind of have this carpool lane effect where whatever you've got going on in your business as usual stuff, your catalog ads kind of run on their own. They don't need their targeting. They don't need, updated creative every week or every 2 weeks, or just a rigorous amount of, new creative testing. If you use something like Marpipe, you can just create the templates in there and then, send them in to Facebook for catalog ads, or TikTok or Snap or wherever. But anyways, we put this report together. We tracked over $2 billion in catalog revenue. And the biggest stat was that if you used enriched catalogs versus plain catalogs, your ROAS was basically just about double. It's right under double, but just about double. Some other interesting stats. So AOV wise, there was a 76% increase in AOV from enriched catalogs, meaning that customers are spending a lot more per order. And it's likely because these catalog ads feel very on brand. They get you in and they just get you excited when you get to the site. There was a 47% lower CAC with catalog ads. So brands are getting customers for nearly half the cost. 53% higher conversion rates, which means that there more of those clicks are turning into purchases. 41% lower cost per purchase, so efficiency is up across the board, and then 55% higher ROAS. So ultimately, you're making more on every dollar you spend. Now, across a cohort of about 650 ad accounts, we saw that basically regular image and video ads had a ROAS of 4, whereas catalog ads, enriched catalog ads, had a ROAS of about 8.2. Now, Facebook has been working a lot on catalog ads, more so than I think any other platform that I'm aware of. And one of the things that they have launched recently and have been testing, and we've been testing too, is these video-led catalog ads, meaning, think about it. Don't think about plain catalog ads, but think about the enriched catalogs. Those have those different elements. It may be a buy now, pay later icon. It may be a 5-star review icon. It may be a quote. It may be a title. Whatever it is, you can basically create that similar format or template when it comes to video catalog ads. So, you don't necessarily have to have a custom video for every single product and then upload that into the feed. Instead, you can create video templates. So, let's say you've got the render image of your shoe, right? Let's say you sell 4,000 different shoes on your website, but you've got this one image of a shoe. Or even if you sell a t-shirt, right, you've got kind of the cutout image of the t-shirt that's standard across the board. Now you can create this video template where the video is essentially, the shirt is there and then the text appears or, something flies in. And then you can take that whole concept and just replicate it across your catalog. So you've got the element that starts and then you've got the text that flies in, which is, sync to the catalog. You've got the reviews that fly in, which is again synced to another thing. So you can create these video catalog ads and sort of leverage this feature, which if you know anything about when Facebook launches features, they always give favored rates and pricing and everything. The numbers just look better when you play with their new features. So right now we've seen that the brands that are leaning in saw 40% increase in sales and 50% more views compared to the static ads. Now, this is something that's going to get bigger and bigger this year. I've heard from many sources that there's going to be a lot more limitations put on advertising in terms of how you can target and who you can target and, what you can really do outside of creative. So this is something I'm really excited for. Plus, we know that TikTok and Snap are also working really hard on improving their DPAs and their catalog ads. I also just think that generally, I don't know if you've uploaded a product to TikTok Shop. If you have, you know how many features and how many labels you have to add to that product listing. That's going to become probably uniform across every platform. And the reason that's important is because now the platforms understand exactly what traits and tags and things of that nature people are interested in different products, which will then help you as a brand serve more efficient catalog ads. I also think in the near future, when we're wearing smart glasses and, AR is built into those and, it's not a Vision Pro, but it's like a pair of glasses. You'll be able to just look around your house and you're going to see a piece of art on a shelf. And that's technically a catalog ad, an AR catalog ad, or you're going to turn around and see a new couch in your living room. And that'll be another AR catalog ad. I think catalog ads are very much a part of the future. And I think it's important to get on board with them and make sure that you've got a creative practice in place that helps support that. Okay. The next thing I want to jump into is what I call second-time founder differences. So one of our clients is actually here in the office today. The founders, so there's 4 founders, 2 sisters and 2 co-founders. Both 2 pairs of co-founders who had worked in separate companies before, but collaborated. And it just got me thinking, what are some of the things that these guys are doing differently that we tend to see as a pattern across founders who are launching their second brand or third brand or fourth brand that you don't necessarily see from the get-go with people who are launching their first brand. And so that's what I wanted to focus on. They say that the first-time founders tend to focus on product and brand, and second-time founders really focus on distribution. In the last year alone, we've probably launched, more than a few handful of brands. I'd say at least 30, 40, 50% of those are post-exit founders. So this is at least their second time. And these are basically 10 things that I see them do differently. So one is they aim to innovate, not compete. So they don't look at a product and say, I can make a better deodorant. I can make a better weighted blanket. They say, okay, what can I do here that no one else has done here? And what can I do that's proprietary only to me, so that if somebody wants this, they can only come to me? Some examples of this, Update is an energy drink. They leverage an ingredient called paraxanthine, which allows it's basically derived from natural caffeine. It doesn't have the crash. David Protein is another great example of that, where they've got this protein ingredient that nobody else has, allowing you to get more proteins per calories, or more proteins to calorie ratio. Normally I believe it's 1 gram of protein for 10 calories. Whereas with David, you've got 28 grams of protein with 150 calories. So just above half, I guess. Other examples of this, Jolie, they're not necessarily competing with a nice looking shower head. They brought the filter in, and so that's their innovation. I always like to think of K18 shampoo as another example of this, where they're not competing with the average shampoo in the aisle. They created something new. They innovated on an ingredient, put that in there, and that's what makes their product. So they're really looking to just innovate, not simply just compete in a category that may or may not already be full. The second one is they are super anal about product in hands, not what a specific icon in the brand book looks like. So, everything is about getting distribution. David, for example, just launched weeks ago, and it's already in my local bodega next to my apartment. They're just really focused on being everywhere. They're not romantic about, we can't be on Amazon, we can't be in a retail store, we can't be here. They want to be where they know that customers are going to shop where customers want to shop. And so they're very focused on making sure they're getting distribution and then supporting the sell-through in that distribution as well. Number 3 is kind of from my point of view as a partner or an agency, is these guys don't look for discounts. They're not in it for finding an agency that's going to give them the best price. They're not in it to, see who's going to basically sweat the most. They're looking for the best agencies. They want us to get involved, maybe as an investor, maybe as an equity partner, or maybe they don't. Like some new brands just don't. They just want to pay us for it, and they just want the best work possible. But then once we get involved and lock in, they want to step on the gas. They're insanely fast to move. And this brings me to my next point, which is that they don't take more than 24 hours to reply. They're always super fast to reply. Second-time founders are usually all on text. They prefer text. Everything is done quickly through phone calls. It's not like, hey, we're going to wait for the weekly meeting, or we're going to do this or that, or that we are waiting for stuff to get back to us, because they just get stuff done real quick. And I think one big reason for that too is that first-time founders try to perfect everything, whereas second-time founders are like, let's get it 95% perfect and get it out the door. That's better than it being 100% perfect and never getting out the door or getting out the door late. Hundreds of brands like Garrett Popcorn, July Luggage, and Selfie Leslie are making 6 figures in incremental revenue through Instant's supercharged retention marketing platform. It takes 15 minutes to go live, and you see results within just days. You most likely already send site abandonment emails, but because most of the traffic on your site's anonymous, you don't get to email 98% of these visitors. Instant gives you another chance to convert these visitors into buyers and send 10 times more cart abandonment emails than you were before, helping you double your abandon flow revenue. Want to see it in action? Don't miss your chance. Sign up by April 1st to get the first month free. Go to instant.one/limited. That is instant.one/limited to learn more. The next one, number 5, is that they don't focus on any KPI except units sold and profit. They don't care about how many Instagram story impressions we're getting. They don't care about, how many, I don't even know. I'm drawing a blank here, but they just don't care. All they want to know is, are we selling units and are we making profit? If we're selling units and we're not making profit, that's not good either. If we're making a profit but we're not selling units, that's also not good. They want to make sure that we're selling units, we're scaling, and we're doing it in a way that's sustainable for both us and them. If it's not sustainable for them, it's not sustainable for us as a partner either. Number 6 is they don't waste time on marketing concepts, placements, programs that don't drive intent for sales and then the actual sales themselves. So things like the refer a friend programs, sponsoring random events where there may be a celebrity who's attending, sponsoring a dinner that might be covered on the cooking channel, paying a 5-figure deal for an influencer to post something. They're not focused on this stuff. They're just focused on cans in hands, as they say in the beverage industry, or basically just getting product in people's hands. Number 7 is second-time founders. They barter extremely well. Whether it's an event, like I just mentioned, let's say it's a pop-up event or a sports event and they need product, they'll say, hey, let's make a barter deal. You get what you want, we get what we want. And obviously, if you have a good product, they're going to want the product for sure. So they're really good at that. In that case, they're also really good at getting vendors involved, either maybe at a preferred valuation or with an equity split for some of the services that they do. And of course, if it's a brand that's going to end up doing really well, then that works out for everybody involved. Number 8, they hire the best people from the get-go versus the cheapest. So very similar to what I just mentioned earlier about agencies and vendors and softwares. They're not after finding people who are just going to do the job and do it for the lowest salary. Instead, they want to go find the best possible people and figure out some sort of a compensation package that works for everybody. Usually, obviously, there's going to be some equity piece involved in there too. But, they're really just here to find the best people, trust them kind of as the CEO of their own departments. So if you're a head of marketing, you're like the CEO of the marketing department. If you're the, head of supply chain, you're the CEO of supply chain. And just let them do their thing. They know how to do it. That's why they're there. That's why they got hired. And they're just really good at finding that kind of talent. Number 9 is they fund it in a much smarter way. So either by leading with their own capital or ensuring they don't have investors who aren't aligned with the exact vision that the founder has. They're usually very smart about capital, whether it's raising debt, whether it's raising equity, whether it's getting lines of credit. My advice would also be that if you aren't sure what to do in that world, go talk to a second-time founder. Talk to somebody who has done this before, or talk to somebody who has just gotten past the stage you're about to get to. Which brings me to number 10, which is that they've already made the mistakes. So it's hard to learn from this one without going through some actual mistakes, other than if you build that tight network of people who have been where you are going. But, they have a network, they've got access to capital, they know which agencies to work with, and they don't make as many costly mistakes as a result. Those are, very quickly, the 10 things that I think that second-time founders just do better. And I'll try to go deeper on this, and maybe I'll turn this into an article or a newsletter. If you're not signed up for the newsletter, go sign up. It's nik.co/email. Goes out every Sunday. About 100,000 people get it every Sunday. And what I'll do is I'll go deep on the second-time founders thing, because I think that's going to be really interesting for people. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is a house test that we did with one of our clients. So house, if you don't know, house and incrementality testing software. And, there's basically a few different types of measuring the performance of advertising or your ad spend. One of them is this concept of incrementality testing, which basically says that if you were to run a holdout, let's say you want to test, we'll just dive into this test. So I'll dive into this test and then I'll sort of explain everything that I was just about to explain. So one of our clients at Sharma Brands is Lalo. They make baby products. They have award-winning products for children, and luckily we have the pleasure of making all their ad creative, running their ads, handling their measurement, etc. I've always been a huge advocate, and definitely on this podcast, about how you should always focus on optimizing ads towards the bottom of the funnel. You want to focus on purchases, you want to focus on subscriptions, you want to focus on bundle purchases if you've got custom events. If you're in the category of health and wellness and now you have these restrictions, then this is actually really relevant, because you want to figure out, using incrementality testing, what custom events to optimize toward. But anyways, when you get to the point of diminishing returns, which means, you're spending so much on this purchase objective that if you spend more, your efficiency actually becomes less, then that's when I think you should start testing events that are higher up in the funnel. Add to cart, initiate checkout, selecting a different variant, whatever it may be. But if you're just running direct to consumer as a sales channel, you can almost just focus on the purchase objective for the most part. So because Lalo sells in retail stores, they sell in online marketplaces, they sell on Amazon, and they sell on their .com, we wanted to test something. Could we generate similar or better efficiencies if we tested ads that ran an add to cart objective on Meta versus just the purchase objective? So we set this up. We set it up as a 3-cell test. We had 40% of our traffic was the purchase objective stuff, which is is kind of the evergreen stuff for us. We did 40% as add to cart, and then we did a 20% holdout. Now, my initial thoughts were, well, I don't think add to cart's going to work as well because, everything that we see, if you just run to the .com, you tend to see that people run add to cart campaigns, people add to cart, and then they bounce. However, because they're available for sale on Amazon and other marketplaces, we thought this could be a really, really interesting test. So we ran it, and inside Meta, which has a limited tracking and shorter attribution window, we saw numbers that didn't look so good, especially out the gate. But then when you looked at the 3-week holdout inside house, we saw that the purchase event campaigns were actually only 2% more incremental to the add to cart test. So add to cart performed extremely well. Only 2% less incremental than what we normally run. And it proved that for this brand, Lalo, with its omni-channel distribution, the add to cart campaigns work. People are buying on other platforms. They're buying in stores. They're buying online on Amazon. And so then we thought, okay, if you're running this on Meta and it's working really well, could you do a similar thing on TikTok? So we did the same thing on TikTok. We ran a 2-cell holdout test. One was where we drove 60% of our 60% of the spend was for traffic ads. So not purchase ads, but just upper funnel TikTok traffic ads. And we've also seen with many other brands that TikTok is actually a phenomenal prospecting tool, even if you just run TikTok as your prospecting channel, not Meta. Anyways, we ran it as a 2-cell test. So 60% was going to traffic campaigns and 40% was the holdout. Now, when we looked at these results, we actually saw that there was just under a 12.5% lift in new customer revenue, which means that, and there was also a good lift on returning customer revenue, but it just comes to show that, you got to test everything. I would not have guessed that the traffic campaign was going to work as good as it did for Lalo, especially given that it's a really high AOV product and definitely has a longer sales cycle. But while these tests don't work for everyone on every channel, it's important to look at all the different models. In this case, the incrementality model versus just a 7-day click, 1-day view, or a 1-day click, 1-day view, which is what you might be running in Meta, to understand how you should be testing and optimizing your entire acquisition strategy. If you've got any questions about the house test or want to jam on it, shoot me a DM on Twitter and I will respond with any questions you got. That's all for today's episode. I hope it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that your car ride, your ride to school, your gym workout, however you were listening to me, was made incrementally better. And again, if you've got any questions, shoot me a note. Please make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment wherever you're listening, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all of it helps. And if you've got any requests for topics you want me to cover, shoot me a message as well. Until next Wednesday, I hope you have an amazing week and an amazing weekend, and talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next time to cut through the noise on CPG, retail, and e-commerce. If you enjoyed this episode, why not share it with a friend? And be sure to subscribe wherever you listen so you don't miss the next one.